The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for Monday, the 2nd of May, 2016, are currently trading with gold at $1,291.86 an ounce, silver $17.57 an ounce, Texas crude $45.92 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently at about 446 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 2011, Osama bin Laden, the suspected mastermind behind the September 11th attacks and the FBI's most wanted man for other unrelated terrorist attacks, is killed by the United States Special Forces, Dev Guru, or SEAL Team 6. The end of Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad, Pakistan. Today in history. In recent news, Carnival Cruises line Adonaya became the first U.S. cruise ship to dock in Havana on Monday for nearly 40 years. The Adonaya is one of the Carnival's smaller ships. However, the addition of U.S. cruise routes to there are expected to bring Cuba tens of millions in American currency because of tourism, a much-needed boost to the Cuban economy. More than a dozen lines have announced plans to run U.S.-Cuban cruises, which have the potential of raking in $80 million a year, according to a report also released today from the U.S.-Cuba Trade and Economic Council. Unfortunately, most of the money does go directly to the Cuban government because the cruise company pays the government $500,000 per cruise, while passengers spend roughly $100 per person in each city that they visit. Carnival is stating that the Adonaya line will cruise twice a month from Miami to Havana, where it will start at $1,800 per person. It's a 7-day circuit, but with stops in the cities of Cienfuegos and Santiago. And even though President Obama and Raul Castro have loosened economic restrictions between the U.S. and Cuba, the trips are required to include Cuban history and cultural workshops with tours of the cities in order to have them qualify as people-to-people educational travels, since pure tourism is still banned under U.S. regulations. Elon Musk is aiming his SpaceX Falcon rocket to greater heights. His new project Red Dragon aims to land people, including himself, on Mars as early as 2018. The Falcon Heavy will have 27 first-stage engines compared to the 9 aboard the SpaceX current Falcon rocket, and is scheduled for its first test flight before the end of the year. NASA, who has landed craft on the Red Planet 7 times successfully already, said it would offer technological insight and advice. This is Rick Brody with your lowdown for May 2nd, 2016.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I have a joke for you.
Okay.
The government in this town is excellent and uses your tax dollars efficiently.
I thought you'd see it coming. The moment you comes with the food. Bitcoin is immune from attack almost completely, but Bitcoin you'll actually gain far more from using that computing power to generate Bitcoins. There's a system approaching perfection. It's in time for it to disappear. There's a system approaching perfection. It's in time for it to disappear.
We'll walk deeper into the belly of the beast. It means I'm able to further limit reckless government spending.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Crypto Show, a show about disruptive technology, currency, and liberty, with a pinch of sticking it to the man. As always, we come to you live from the real heart of the resistance in Austin, Texas, deep beneath the Chase Bank, with a stack of Bitcoin miners at our back, undermining the bank and the man. We bring to you the latest info from those hacking away at the digital revolution and having some fun while we do it.
Oh, that reminds me of a magic camp I went to when I was younger. Yes.
I figured why not? We have circus animals in here with us, so.
Yeah, we do. But circus animals that we love. Justice. No. Justice is here, though. Justice Ranveer. He's our guest, one of our guests today, and I'll introduce him.
I actually wasn't talking about the dogs. I was talking about the kids in the background. But
oh, ouch, harsh. Well, I'm not going to comment on anybody because I keep my mouth shut and I don't offend anybody like you. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm totally offended now. I'm going to have Trump arrest you.
No. You mean Daddy?
Yeah.
What's that guy's name?
Daddy More Bucks.
He was at Anarchapulco. He's the Greek British guy. He did he was one of the speakers for the roasts for,
I think you mean Milo.
Milo. Thank you. Thank you, Justice. Exactly. You know, I had not really heard of him before Narcopulco, and I had not really listened to him before watching a couple small interviews this past week. But he's an interesting cat. I kind of like him. He definitely brings a lot of personality to a sort of libertarian sphere. So I don't have to. Do you know his last name?
Yiannopoulos or something like
Yiannopoulos.
that. Yiannopoulos.
Something like that. Mile Yiannopoulos.
Don't ask me how to pronounce that.
Well, don't ask me how to spell it, but do your best attempt to Google it. But he calls Trump daddy, and only daddy. Never Trump, never Donald, never anything like that. Anyway, that's not really relevant to anything. But it is a crypto show. It is May 4th, 2016. It's a Wednesday. And we got some good guests lined up. Oh, that makes it sound so professional. I love it. We got some good guests lined up. In the first half, we have Justice Ranvier. I don't know how else to introduce him other than that he's a good friend of the show, and he's a Bitcoin expert. I mean, in my mind, one of the leading experts, certainly local to this town, but probably nationally pretty well known in his own right.
I'm willing to claim expertise, in the 3-foot radius of this chair.
So just before touching Danny or me.
That's not saying much
at all.
With us in the room.
I know. Tell me about it. Well, that's quite humble of you, sir. And then the second half, we hope to have back again. It's only been a couple weeks since she was on. Heather Fazio of the Marijuana Policy Project. And in essence, today's show, while the first half is about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, the second half is going to be a little bit of what we missed last month for our cannabis legalization month. Last year, cannabis legalization month was almost exclusively about cannabis legalization. This year, we had a lot more Bitcoin-heavy episodes, although we still had some excellent guests concerning marijuana.
Brought to you by Doritos.
And its decriminalization, brought to you by Carl's Jr. But we're going to have Heather on to talk about something else new that she has to update us on. And then we're hopefully going to have a second guest about what was his name?
No, it's her, Jax Finkel.
Oh, Jax Finkel, right?
Possibly. I'm still waiting to confirm. So
right.
We'll find out.
And she's with Women Grow, right?
No. She's the executive director of Normal.
Normal. That's what I said. I said Normal.
I don't know how normal is.
Am I right? Considering.
I mean, they have their own cop car with a pot leaf on the hood. So.
I know, it's the coolest thing ever. I knew about that before I ever knew about Normal, I want to say. Well, anyway, let's get to it. Before I do, though, of course, don't forget, we come to you, as always, on Logos Radio Network. Please support Logos Radio Network at logosradionetwork.com with any donations that you can spare. And don't forget our sponsors, Brave New Books. BraveNewBookstore.com is where you can find many of the products available at the bookstore, also online. You can also find the events page. And TheBitcoinBookstore.com is where you can find 50-plus titles on Bitcoin. Well, speaking of Bitcoin, let's get down to it. As I mentioned, Justice Ranvier is in studio here with us. And Justice has been on the show countless times to discuss some really cool issues, including the privacy project he did about Bitcoin wallets. What was it called again?
The Open Bitcoin Privacy Project.
Open Bitcoin Privacy Project. That's right. And I know we're not here to discuss that, but go ahead and just quickly summarize what that was about.
Well, that's an ongoing project to identify weak areas in Bitcoin privacy and ways to improve it. And one of our biggest projects is where we do wallet ratings, where we rate different Bitcoin wallets on their privacy features to give individuals let them make more informed choices about their wallets, and also to help wallet developers identify the weak areas that affect everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And y'all have had 2 rounds of that, and it was a pretty impressive methodology and set of criteria that y'all used to do the rankings, and some pretty illuminating outcomes. And what's interesting is that there were differences between the first and the second rounds, which goes to show how dynamic, the Bitcoin sphere is, but also how dynamic entrepreneurs and software developers in this sphere are as well.
Yeah, we're working on the criteria for the third round now. Basically, the pattern is we release a set of ratings, and then we spend some time improving and revising our criteria to make it more comprehensive, and then we repeat the process again. Right,
very, very scientific and very conscientious. And y'all could always use people's help, right, as far as testing the wallets for the various criteria?
Yeah. We experimented with some different ways of best dividing up the work of doing the wallets and the reviews, and that's something we're still discussing how we're going to do the next time around.
Well, if people want to learn more or potentially reach out to help, where can they go?
They'd go to openbitcoinprivacyproject.org.
openbitcoinprivacyproject.org. It's a mouthful, but pretty simple. And check it out. Well, we're here to discuss another wallet because it has adopted a particular feature that was actually developed by Justice Ranvier. And it's a pretty cool one. Justice had mentioned this to us, I think, before, but now that it's actually being implemented, he's going to go a little bit more in depth into it. Well, the wallet is Samurai Wallet, and it's spelled slightly off from how you would traditionally spell it, SAMOURAI, SAMOURAI, SamuraiWallet.com. Pretty little snazzy homepage there. But it's not like just any Bitcoin wallet for the reason that I just mentioned. And Justice, I guess tell us about this. Tell us about what you've created and how this features into Samurai Wallet.
Well, Samurai Wallet was a project to make a mobile wallet that was very privacy oriented. You could kind of think of it as like a dark wallet inspired wallet, but on Android instead of as a Chrome plugin. And that project was already underway when I released the payment code specification. And I guess the timing worked out to be just about right. But the developer for Samurai Wallet contacted me soon after BIP47 was released, and was interested in implementing it and asked for some support and clarification. And I worked with him to implement BIP47 in Samurai Wallet. And now they are actually in the open alpha period where anyone can sign up and down the wallet and try payment codes for the first time.
And so an alpha, of course, is the stage prior to beta, as classically, as far as phases go, or how does it relate, or what's the difference compared to full launch?
Right now, you cannot get Samurai through the Play Store. You have to go to their website and click on a button to sign up for the alpha.
I got mine today through the Play Store.
For the first time, or just an update?
It's just a Samurai Wallet.
Oh, well, maybe they've already moved out of this alpha stage. I didn't actually check. But until recently, you had to sign up for the alpha through their website. I
was going to say, it looks on the website, it says get alpha access. So if it is downloadable in the Play Store, it must be really, really recent. Yeah. Because their website still reflects the alpha.
But basically what alpha means is that expect more crashes than normal. So
that's a good summary. I like that.
There are a lot of different Android platforms and a lot of different devices and different versions of Android. So probably before they announce an official non-alpha release, they're going to have to spend a lot of time getting other people testing it, finding the places where it crashes on some new unique combination of hardware and Android version.
That makes sense. So yeah, they're going to just kind of see how it works in all these different iterations, even if they're similar. They're not exactly the same and can have their own issues, if only subtle ones, because of the subtle differences in the code. That makes sense. Well, we're coming to break here in a minute and a half, and we're talking with Justice Ranvier, again, a Bitcoin expert within a 3-foot radius of wherever he is. I would say he's bad at math, or at least bad at measuring, because I think that radius is actually a lot longer than 3 feet. But
well, originally my dog was sitting next to me, so
oh, that's true. But we're going to talk more with him on the other side. Again, we're talking about the Samurai Wallet, SAMOURAI, SamuraiWallet.com. They're currently in alpha. They may have jumped to a new stage of testing, as it turns out, but we'll kind of see how that goes. But you can go try out the alpha version at SamuraiWallet.com, and when we get back from break, we'll discuss with Justice what he knows about what he already mentioned, the similarities in features between Samurai Wallet and Dark Wallet, and more importantly, these payments. What are they called again?
Payment codes.
Payment codes, thank you, that are really neat and, as far as I know, unique innovation developed by Justice that has been implemented in the Samurai Wallet. So stay tuned here on The Crypto Show. We'll be right back with Justice Ranvier.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
This is what happens when you call the cops. Say what? This is what happens when you call the cops. Come on. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. I'm sick of people being victimized by criminal cops. Psychopathic predators terrorizing neighborhood blocks. Equipped with pepper spray, mace, cuffs, tasers, and glocks. They like Serial killers acting out subliminal thoughts. Forget what you taught.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Crypto Show. It is May 4th, 2016, a Wednesday.
May the 4th be with you.
I forgot that's right. Oh, that ridiculous Star Wars day of the year. Everyone, the nerds love Pi Day and the geeks love Star Wars Day, May the 4th. Well, I love Cinco de Mayo, May the 5th, because I am the most interesting man in the world.
You mean the biggest beer drinker?
Basically. When he uses Bitcoin,
No, never.
No, I don't know. I can't. I'm not funny. I would never be a stand-up comedian. Thank God. Anyway, we are talking with Justice Ranveer. In my book, one of the most interesting men in the world because of his keen intelligence and unparalleled expertise in all things Bitcoin. And not to mention he has some really cool dogs.
When you say stuff like that, I just get really worried, just so you know.
Oh, am I like putting targets on you for, or what do you mean? Why do you get worried?
Well, I would hope that there's a lot more people smarter than me, then I don't have to do as much.
That's a good point. It makes your life a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
That's true. See, that's why I act so dumb. I'm actually like a super genius, but I want everyone else to do the work for me. So when I sound ignorant on my own show about the subject matter, it's not that I'm really ignorant. It's that I'm too lazy.
It's a very effective tactic.
Thank you. Yes. And
How does that go?
That comes from someone who knows.
Can't someone else do it?
Exactly. That's my philosophy. Well, we're talking about the Samurai Wallet, samuraiwallet.com. Again, SAMOURAI wallet.com. And it is a new wallet that's in its alpha phase. They may have had a release, as it turns out, on Google Play on Android. We'll have to sort of double check confirmation on that. But I guess go ahead and check it out for yourself, knowing full well all the caveats that it may not be a fully worked out version. There may be bugs yet in it, but you can go to samuraiwallet.com and download the alpha, or I guess find it again on Google Play and see what you can do with it. But as we were talking about, Justice Ranveer had a hand in one of the important features for it. Before we get to that, though, Justice, we were talking about this off air, and just for the knowledge of our listeners and for me as well, you said it implemented BIP 47. And so what is that, and why is that particularly significant, if at all?
Well, BIP 47 is a standard that defines a payment code, and a payment code is a better Bitcoin address.
Okay, and that's basically what we're talking about and why you're here. Well, let's get into that. What is a payment code, and why does it make it a better Bitcoin address?
Well, have you ever heard that there might be some downsides to reusing the same Bitcoin address more than once?
Yes, and explain why that is.
Well, there's been a lot of reasons why that's a problem. There have been security issues in the past. Badly formatted or badly programmed wallets that did their cryptography wrong have had bugs that were only exposed because they were reusing addresses and caused people to lose money.
And was it a thing where the private keys were not completely randomized, or what was?
Yeah, something like that. Bad randomness, but a properly written wallet would never have a security issue based on address reuse. But there's a lot of bugs in your wallet that if you never reuse addresses, those bugs never get exposed. So in general, it's just a better way to it's better from a security perspective to reduce your risk by not reusing addresses.
Right.
Now, it's horrible for privacy to use the same address more than once.
Well, then that goes without saying. You don't need any sort of technical explanation. I mean, because basically, the more you use that address, the more you're connecting it to other addresses and to payments that are visible on the blockchain that someone could use theoretically to link to you, and potentially even to your IP address if you're not using Tor or things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are websites where you block explorers where you just click on an address and you see every payment that's ever come in or out.
Yeah.
And
blockchain.info.
Yeah, that was the first. So, address. We've been. I think it may have even been in the original Bitcoin white paper that address reuse was a bad idea. Use a different key for every transaction. But what we saw is that people started reusing Bitcoin addresses because reusing addresses solved a lot of their problems. And
you mean just like for matters of convenience, basically?
For convenience and safety. So just as an aside, like if we have this problem where we say, oh, the users of this software or the users of this product are using it wrong. When you observe that, there's a couple different ways you can go. you can say, well, the users are dumb, they're lazy, they're doing it wrong, they don't know what's best for them. And then you can try to, berate and insult them and, browbeat them into better behavior. And, this was the tactic that was used. This was the strategy that was used to promote email encryption. And that strategy was so successful that approximately 0% of all emails in the world are encrypted. So
that should tell you how successful it would be or has been with Bitcoin. Yeah.
Right. So when you see massive amounts of people using a technology wrong, you have to say, well, they're using a technology in a certain way because it solves their problems. What problems do they have? What problems are being solved? And how do we find a better way to solve those problems?
So basically, how can someone else, a software developer, entrepreneur, solve those problems for them so that they don't engage in that behavior, or that if they do, it doesn't compromise their security, say?
Right.
Yeah.
So in the case of address reuse, if we go way back to the beginning of Bitcoin, the only Bitcoin wallets that you could use generated their addresses and their private keys randomly as you needed them. And what this meant is that backups were a challenge. After you do a certain number of transactions, send or receive Bitcoins, your backup's out of date. And if you go back to, 2010 and 2011, there's periods where you could it seemed like almost on a daily basis, someone would show up in the forum or on IRC panicking because they had to, restore their wallet from a backup, but it was out of date and not all their money was there. And this happened a lot. It was horrible.
And why wouldn't all their money be there?
Oh, because I think the default was that the wallet would generate 100 addresses at a time. And after that, so you'd back up your wallet file, and it only had, from the beginning of the wallet to the next 100 addresses. And if you did more than 100 transactions, your wallet was out of date.
So it would truncate any amounts from after that 100.
Right, because those keys wouldn't be backed up because they didn't exist at the time the backup was made.
I see.
And this was horrible. People were losing money all the time, and it made Bitcoin hard to use because not only do you have to remember to back up your wallet once, you have to remember some interval that's hard to notice and hard to keep track of. You have to redo your backups. Then you have multiple backups. It was a disaster. And what we saw, I think 2011, 12, 13, wallets started moving to deterministic keys, and ultimately a standard emerged for HD wallets. And these are the wallets that you're probably more familiar with, where you have the 12 or 24 word seed.
Right. So when you open a wallet, say on Mycelium, they make you write down a bunch of random words from a dictionary, simple words, but it's random enough to be really secure.
Yes, and all of the keys your wallet will ever use are derived from those words. But before deterministic wallets became common, single key wallets, that just had one address, were implemented, and they were implemented to solve the problem of key management. Because it's hard to give people a technology with sharp edges that include maybe you could lose all of your funds forever. So before the algorithms really existed to do deterministic wallets correctly, the most obvious solution to this usability problem was to just have one address. And that became, even today, there are still a lot of people using wallets that started out, like blockchain.info wallet started out with just one address. And there are a lot of people still using it, and they're probably still using it with just one address.
Well, let's talk more about that and other stuff. Samurai Wallet with Justice Ranger on the other side.
The fountain of youth? How about the fountain of health? Turmeric, a golden herb used in Indian cooking, contains an amazing compound that has researchers doing cartwheels. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll tell you about terrific turmeric in just a moment.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This public service announcement is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Turmeric is the spice that lends that golden yellow color to curry dishes. It's been traditionally used in Asian medicine to treat everything from indigestion to arthritis. Now, Western doctors say curcumin, a compound found in turmeric, can help treat breast cancer and liver disease, reduce inflammation, and lower cholesterol. It may also help Alzheimer's disease, arthritis, irritable bowel syndrome, depression, and even lymphoma. You don't need expensive supplements to get the benefits. Turmeric is available in the spice aisle of your supermarket or as an ingredient in curry. Heat some oil in a pan, saute an onion, sprinkle in some turmeric, and add your favorite vegetable. Voila! No side effects and no prescription required. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
Live Free Speech Radio. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time. Take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time. Take back the power. What you gonna do when they show up in black suits on your street and I mid boots and then silence you? What you gonna say when they strip your rights away and the tax man makes you pay?
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show on this lovely Wednesday, May, not
Tax man
April.
ain't gonna make me pay my bitcoins though.
Is it Trailer Park Boys?
No, it's just referring to the song.
Oh, okay. I just figure every reference you make is Trailer Park Boys. Mm-hmm. So it's just, statistically a good bet for me to...
That or The Simpsons.
The Simpsons. I wonder if The Simpsons have mentioned Bitcoin. Are they still on? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Are they? Wow.
Yes, they've mentioned Bitcoin a few times.
On The Simpsons?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, crazy. I have to look for that. Anyway, getting back to Homer Ranvier. No, I'm just kidding. It's a compliment. I love Homer. Everyone loves Homer. Justice Ranvier talking to us about the Samurai Wallet, and we're going to get to payment channels or payment codes here shortly. But he was discussing why reuse of addresses was an issue, and we're going to flesh that out still before we get into payment channels. But before that, too, I want to mention when we talked about being able to download the alpha version on Google Play, you have to opt in to do that. And so do you opt in on Google Play when you search for it? You have to do it from the website.
Yeah, you go to their website, click the link. Danny had already done that. That's why I was in the Play Store.
I've been on Samurai's mailing list since they first
There
came
you
out.
go. So just for clarification, you have to opt in to do that from the website. So it's not just freely available. But just keep that in mind. But if you want to try it out, go ahead and go to SamuraiWallet.com. Well, Justice, let's resume what we were discussing about the address usage.
Yeah, so the first batch of wallets that started reusing addresses by default did so for safety reasons. It was a way to guarantee that you would only have to back up once and would be guaranteed to never lose all your money. But once they started doing that, the user of these wallets discovered that it was incredibly convenient to reuse addresses. So some charity starts accepting Bitcoins, they just put a Bitcoin address on their website. You tell your friend your address, and maybe you have a wallet with an address book in it, and you just remember that, and every time you send them money, you just send to this known address.
And that was particularly a problem with the first Texas Bitcoin conference with FreeAid. Remember, someone stole, I think, 30-something Bitcoin from a bunch of their Bitcoin was stolen from.
Wow.
Yeah, there's if you're using one address for all of your Bitcoins, that makes some of the more advanced security precautions like cold storage a little bit harder to manage.
Well, and so speaking of which, real quick, not to get too sidetracked, but speaking of cold storage, we kind of briefly mentioned this off air. So this is especially, and this is equally, if not more of an issue for cold storage, right? For paper wallets, rather?
Yeah, as when paper wallets were originally implemented, basically you had to reuse the address, and you definitely had to send change back to the same address. Because the tools for creating deterministic change addresses didn't even exist. But
so you could potentially just print a paper wallet with a payment code on it, and
I think we can get to that a little later.
Okay, all right.
Cart before the horse.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, and one other example of why people found it incredibly convenient to reuse addresses is right here at Brave New Books. What did they do for a long time? They just printed out a payment the QR code of a single address and taped it onto the cash register. And for a lot of merchants, especially in the early years of merchants accepting Bitcoins, they were small, they didn't have a lot of infrastructure, and managing a different address for every transaction was a burden that would have made them just not accept Bitcoin at all. Because if you're going to generate a unique address for every transaction, you've got to have some infrastructure there. You've got to have something
track it and
right. And then you have more failure points. You have, let's say you're using an external service like, BitPay was the first payment processor, or I think Mycelium even has a service that lets you generate unique addresses.
Mycelium Gear.
Yeah. So there are many options out there, but again, all of those require an active internet connection. They require you to rely on the uptime of some third-party provider. It's more work. To accept Bitcoins, quote unquote, correctly, there's a lot more work involved than just than if you do it incorrectly and print out a QR code on a piece of paper, slap it on the register.
I mean, we should just probably go back to fiat, right?
Well, you know, in some cases, it really was like that. And if you think about this from the perspective of business owners, they want to spend their time improving their business and serving their customers. Any time they have to spend on payment processing is waste.
Yeah, of course.
So,
but luckily things have come around to help that. But go on.
Right. So these are the problems that address reuse was solving for people, for lots of people and lots of Bitcoin users. So if we want them to change that, we have to solve their problem. And if we want them to use Bitcoin in a better way, solve their problem in a better way. And that's what we worked on with payment codes. So cool. A payment code it's longer than a normal Bitcoin address because it has some extra information in there. And extra information allows your wallet to automatically generate unique deposit addresses for the sender. So once our wallets have exchanged payment codes with each other, there's a one-time notification process they have to do. And after that process, every time we send Bitcoins to each other, we don't have to get a new address from the recipient. Our wallet figures that out automatically, and the transactions just go through and they show up on the recipient's wallet. The recipient knows who paid them, and your history of your sends shows who you paid, and it works great for both sides.
Sorry, and just to clarify, were you just illustrating an example of someone with a Samurai wallet paying someone without one, or
no, two people who have wallets that both support BIP47?
Gotcha.
Right now, that's only Samurai wallet, but as more wallets implement this protocol, it would work the same way between any wallets that support any wallets that support BIP47.
So any wallets that support the standard could implement this new payment code.
Yes, and this standard was designed to be as easy to implement in wallets as possible.
And we just did this off air. He sent to me. We connected our payment codes, and why is the address so much longer? The payment code address seems a lot longer than a regular Bitcoin address.
Yeah, it is because it has extra data in it. For technically, most of what a payment code is mostly an extended public key from BIP32 with a little bit of extra version and feature information wrapped around it. And extended public keys are twice as long as regular public keys. But that extra data allows you to generate derived keys from it. That's what allows you, if I were to send you 10 transactions, my wallet could calculate 10 brand new addresses for you without me having to contact you 10 times. And then it would know that your wallet is able to see those incoming transactions and have the private keys needed to spend them.
And also just the ease of it, you look in your wallet for the name and that's it, right? You just, once you've connected, it's okay. I want to send Justice money, so I just look for Justice, and I don't have to know anything else.
Right, and you'll know that they'll show up in my wallet, and you'll know that you'll be using a unique address every time, and no two people will ever use the same address when they're sending to the same recipient.
So when someone's scouring the block to find out where payments went, it's not going to be very easy to figure out that I sent Justice 100 payments of X amount of dollars.
Right, every one of those addresses where the payments were sent would be unique, and without breaking elliptic curve cryptography, there's no way to connect them with each other.
That's what I was going to ask. So there's literally no way, aside from the seemingly impossible, there's no other kind of trick that someone could theoretically use, however infeasible, to connect them?
In terms of purely cryptographically connecting the addresses, no, that is as secure as elliptic curve cryptography in general.
Wow.
Which we know that sufficiently powerful quantum computers can break all of elliptic curve cryptography,
right.
But that means they break all the cryptography that's used in Bitcoin right now.
Right.
So as long as we're using ECC, the payment code addresses will not be connectable to each other.
But that's what's cool is it's you hear about maybe not things like this where it's 90% secure, but this is 100%. So that's great. Well, we'll be right back with Justice Randver. Stay tuned.
Chip in my babies. Stay out of our lives. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me.
All right, guys. Welcome back to the Crypto Show here on this lovely May the 4th be with you, 2016, a Wednesday. We are talking with Justice Randver about the Samurai wallet and the new payment codes feature that he designed and which has been implemented into the Samurai wallet. Sounds really cool. Now, let's explain it one more time, just because for those who may not be familiar with the concept, let's run through it one more time and explain how it would work for sending between two people.
Well, if you want the high level view, as I said at the beginning, it's a better Bitcoin address. And it's better because when you receive payments, it tells you who paid you. And no one will nag you about reusing it because it's designed to be reused.
Nice.
So yeah, once your wallets have added the recipient's payment code that you got from scanning a QR code or wherever, it stays in the wallet, and then you just have to click on that name and send them a payment anytime you want to, and you don't have to ask them for a new address every time.
And so the transaction on the blockchain is not going to show this address; it's going to show the address, the alternate address that it generated, right?
Right. Only the sender and the recipient can connect the transaction on the blockchain to the people involved. So you know who paid you, but no one else does.
Pretty neat. And like you said, that's as secure as Bitcoin itself. It's as secure as the elliptic curve cryptography. And what I was trying to say is, like, you hear about certain features like this, and it's like really difficult, though possible, for someone to like connect the dots or get around it. But what you're saying is that it's basically impossible unless someone were to actually break the cryptography, which is really strong and really a promising feature.
Right. The cryptography part is not going to be broken until all of Bitcoin is broken. But that doesn't mean that every privacy problem has been solved.
Would it be possible for you to implement like a recurring payment system the same way?
Well, yes. If your wallet was sending recurring payments, you would not need to interact with the recipient every time to get a unique deposit address. You just send to the payment code, and the calculating the unique deposit addresses happens automatically.
Well, I meant like an automatic recurring payment. Like if you wanted to send a payment out on the 15th of every month.
Well, I mean, your wallet can already do that, right?
Okay.
This new address format doesn't prevent a wallet from sending a recurring payment. But what it would do is make it a little bit easier to do without reusing the recipient's address.
Well, and so what other? I mean, this doesn't solve all of their privacy issues, you said. So what would still be an issue then?
Well, you still need to use things like mixing in order to prevent funds from being associated with each other. I mean, there's no address format we're going to add that's ever going to solve that problem. So if you were to send 100 transactions in a row to the same person, yes, the addresses would be unique, but there's other information besides addresses leaked in the transaction. So I really don't want people to think of Bit47 as, oh, this is a magic bullet that solves all privacy problems. No, and I'd actually prefer if people don't think of Bit47 as a privacy technology. It's a usability technology that happens to improve your privacy.
Is that so they don't start to over rely on it and start to get kind of sloppy kind of thing?
Well, not only that, but if we want people to use our software, we have to focus on solving their problems. So when you say, here's a usability technology that solves your problems better than what you're using now, that immediately tells people, oh, this is something I might want. And then the privacy improvements become just, an added bonus on top.
Right.
And this approach, I think, has a better chance of succeeding than just nagging people that they're doing it wrong for years and years at a time and never changing their behavior.
Yeah, I think it's way better than nagging. As you basically said before, nagging doesn't work. And I know that from my own experience. Well, and speaking of mixing, is that what Dark Wallet does? Mixes the addresses to obfuscate and obscure payments.
Yeah, the servers that Dark Wallet connects to have a mixing capability built in, and Dark Wallet was programmed to allow you to use that relatively easily. And
was I mistaken? Was there a mention on the Samurai Wallet website that they utilize something similar to Dark Wallet, or?
As far as I know, mixing is on their roadmap.
Okay, it's on the roadmap. I see.
It's not currently implemented.
That's probably what I read then, was that they're planning on doing that. And so where do you see payment codes going from here? I mean, how does it work as far as if I'm Mycelium or I'm Airbits or any other wallet that's out there, and they want to implement payment codes? Is this sort of a new like business venture on your part that they come to you for it, or is this available out out in space for them to implement, or
open source?
Yeah, the standard is an open specification. Okay. So anybody can go to the repository for Bitcoin improvement proposals and read it and implement it if they want. And I've said before I'm always available to answer questions anyone may have, but no, I don't have any specific business around consulting on BIP47.
Awesome.
I just want to see as many wallets use it as possible.
So you basically very generously developed an important problem-solving feature that whose first implementation is in Samurai Wallet, which is really cool. Yeah. Congrats to them. But you're making it available open source to anyone who might want to use it.
That's basically true. I could also describe it as I have very selfishly made it as easy as possible for other people to use the technology that I want to be able to use when I use Bitcoin.
I can see that. Okay.
Yeah, two sides of the same coin.
Well, I mean, I can see that construence of it as being selfish, but in reality, I think it's far from a selfish act.
Yeah.
And
well, I don't want to have to give people a different deposit address every time they send me Bitcoin.
That's a good point. It's for your own convenience.
Who has time for that?
That's a really good point.
I don't want to have to trade off between privacy and the amount of cycles I have to spend managing addresses.
Right.
So I want as many people who might ever send me Bitcoins as possible to be using a client that supports payment codes. So how about we describe it? It's a win-win.
No, he is selfish after all. Let's stick to that description. No,
it's a win-win relationship.
It is a win-win. You're definitely a practical man. It is funny though. You're so modest about it. You turn what is an otherwise selfless act into a selfish one. That's the ultimate modesty. I like that. But no, that's a really brilliant point. Like, be the change you want to be in the world. And that's in essence what you've done. Like, you're not just helping everyone else out, you're helping yourself out by helping everyone else with this little piece of technology.
Productive laziness.
I love it. Productive. And that's productive laziness.
Yeah.
.me is Justice Ranver's new blog. Check it out. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe it will be. I don't know. But that would be a cool blog name if you ask me. Well, we got 3.5 minutes till break. On the other side, I was wondering if you wanted to talk about Craig Wright and that whole thing.
Why not?
You know what I'm talking about. Even I was aware of this. Even I was up to date. I have to admit, like, I really love Roger Ver's Bitcoin.com. Great news articles by guys like Jamie Redmond. I spent actually much of last night while working on something relatively menial, just reading some stuff. And it's a really snazzy website. Like, I like how they give you options for, learning about Bitcoin, what wallets you might want, why you might want a certain wallet.
You mean Bitcoin.com?
Bitcoin.com.
I've heard of them.
We're even featured on there, I believe, the Crypto Show.
Yeah.
So anyone should go to Bitcoin.com and check it out. It really is a marvelous site for all things Bitcoin news, information, education about what Bitcoin is and how to use it and everything else. And, of course, brought to you by Bitcoin and Jesus himself, Roger Ver.
Who will be on our next show.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
Well, I'm out of town.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Is he really?
Yeah.
Why did you purposely do that?
Yeah. No, I wanted him to fill us in on all the goings on at CoinCensus or
You're such a jerk.
Consensus, whatever.
Yeah, I read a little article on that from one of their writers. It looked pretty interesting. It was kind of the debate about is Bitcoin passé, and it's really about the blockchain. Payments are so 2015 kind of thing. But yeah, that should be an interesting show. Is Harlan going to be there for it?
Maybe. I don't know.
Hopefully so. Stay tuned. You might get the creator of the Crypto Show on for the next episode, Harlan Dietrich.
I think Chris Odom said he might sit in with me, so
that would be cool too. Man, everyone's once the maestro leaves the room, everyone hops into his seat, huh? I see how it is.
They're just keeping it warm for you.
Oh, that's sweet. That's so true. Well, we'll talk about Craig Wright on the other side. We've got a minute and a half till break, though. Are there other Samurai Wallet features that you could extol? Go ahead.
They actually have the features they implemented before BIP47 were, as far as I know, unique in Bitcoin wallets, in that they're very focused on security, and not just in terms of like your privacy on the blockchain, but privacy as in making it possible for you to conceal the fact that the wallet's even installed on your device at all.
Cool.
Yeah, you can set up the wallet so that you have to enter a special code. You have to dial a special number just to be able to open it up at all, and it doesn't appear in your list of applications.
That is so cool. I really like that because I'm really paranoid about security with like wealth, like Bitcoin. Because what I've come to learn about like safes, for instance, actual physical safes, like virtually any safe, even the best out there, can be cracked by eventually, given enough time. So one of the things you want to do, especially if you don't have that good of a safe, you want to hide the fact that you have a safe at all, because that is as big to your safety and your valuables as anything. And same with a Bitcoin wallet. If someone hacks in and doesn't even know it's there, well, it might as well not be there. We'll be right back. right, guys, welcome back to Crypto Show here on this lovely May 4th, 2016, a Wednesday, here on Logos Radio Network, brought to you as always by Brave New Books, Hill Country Home Improvements, and every Sunday we bring you at the top of each hour, so that's twice in the episode, the Crypto Compare News Minute, brought to you by CryptoCompare.com. And that's where I learn all my information on what's going on in Bitcoin.
There in Bitcoin.com.
And Bitcoin.com, luckily. Finally, I've found resources to keep me up to date on my own show. But we were talking with Justice Ranvier.
Good. I'm tired of telling you what's going on.
I know. Tell me about it. I'm tired of you telling me what's going on. But we're talking with Justice Ranvier. We've been discussing the new Samurai wallet. Samurai spelled Samourai. SamuraiWallet.com. It is currently in alpha stage. And how did you define alpha, by the way? I like that. That was funny.
Oh, it may crash a bit more than you're used to.
Okay.
Just make sure to click the report button so that they
can learn from those. Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of funny. It was brilliant. True, though.
And then once you're an alpha tester, if you go there and sign up for the alpha testing, then you can go ahead and get the wallet from Google Play.
There you go. But you have to opt in to do that first, of course. And I want to come up with some alpha joke, but I can't. But we are, so check out Samurai Wallet. It's still in its development stages, but it looks really promising when it comes to security and privacy. As Justice was saying, they're working on making it so that and they were doing this before Justice even helped implement the payment codes, making the wallet even invisible to someone who might hack into your computer, right?
Well, they already have that feature.
They do.
You can
That's
put it
already
in stealth mode.
The stealth mode is already implemented and it's a go.
Right.
That's so cool.
And they also have a remote wipe feature by SMS.
What is that?
Well, you can program a specific SMS message.
Oh, write feature. Did you say write feature?
Wipe.
Wipe. Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, you can configure an SMS code that if you text that to your phone, it will delete the wallet and all evidence that it was there.
That is so cool.
Yeah, they put a lot of work into the physical security realm, which is kind of a new area. I hadn't heard of any other wallet that had actually paid attention to that type of threat.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, not that I'm an expert, but we have plenty of experts on the show, and I've never heard anyone talk about that. That's really cool. Danny, where are you for the Mission Impossible theme song? I need my soundboard now. But that would have been cool, Mission Impossible, self-destruct.
Danny has left the building.
Danny has left the building. And so, even though it's still, I want to move on to something else, but I just want to sum up on the Samurai wallet. Is it, even in its current stage, worth using as a wallet? Especially with the security features. I mean, I guess my concern would be, it sounds tempting, considering all the cool features it has, like the payment codes that you developed, these other security features. But am I still putting myself a little bit at risk while they work out the bugs?
Well, every wallet, even the ones that aren't designated alpha, have a risk of software failure that could cause you to lose money. I mean,
Right.
that's a constant of any Bitcoin wallet. I would say that if in no wallet should you ever have more money than you can afford to lose, especially a wallet that's connected to the internet.
Yeah.
So if you really do have substantial funds that would hurt a lot for you to lose, most of those should be in some kind of cold storage. But as a daily wallet for routine purchases and convenience, I think I found Samurai to be stable enough for my uses. But
Well,
again,
that's
because
telling.
it's in alpha, you get an older version of Android, a different model that he hasn't tested. That's what as we've been testing it with more people, that's kind of the issues we've been seeing. And definitely, as always, back up your seed, your 12 words. And as long as that,
In other words, write them down.
Write them down, put it someplace safe. And as long as you have those words written down, your money should be recoverable. I mean, barring some really, really bizarre cryptographic failures in the wallet, all of the addresses that the wallet ever uses, including all of the BIP47 addresses, are all derived from that same seed.
So let me ask you, if someone were to hack in and steal your Bitcoin, would that allow you to recover it? Or no, you're just saying if that wouldn't allow it, obviously.
No.
But all sorts of other failures that would prevent you access to the wallet.
Yeah, you drop your phone, into the lake, and it's gone forever.
Right.
As long as you have those 12 words, you can recover your wallet, you can get regenerate the keys, and get your money back.
Right. And then last little thing for our listeners, what do you recommend the best way for cold storage?
There's kind of a deficiency in the cold storage realm. I think if you have a large amount of Bitcoins you need to secure, I think Armory is still the best for that. Although it's...
Yeah, but it's kind of on the verge of being shut down itself.
I believe there's still one developer working on it, but it's not dead, but it's definitely not as robust as it used to be.
It's in flux.
So if it were to die, I mean, it would still be usable as a wallet, just not getting, updates and bug fixes, or I mean, how would that work? Not to get too sidetracked, but
well, in principle, you'll always, I mean, the funds that you put into it, you would always be able to get out. Like you can just keep running the same version. Now, if there are changes to the network, new address formats and stuff, then if the software isn't updated, then you wouldn't be able to use those features on the network.
Right.
But I would still think that it should be fine for long-term storage.
Gotcha. Well, cool. All really interesting and important information to know about Bitcoin wallets and Bitcoin storage and how it all works and the Samurai wallet. Well, it sounds like a pretty good endorsement. All things considered, all disclaimers and caveats understood for checking out the Samurai wallet, still in its alpha stage. And
this just in, we're sponsored by Samurai Wallet. No, I'm just kidding.
$5,000 a month? No.
I mean, speaking of that, they do have a donation address built into the wallet itself, a donation payment code, I should say.
That's cool.
Samurai's a pretty small operation. It's a labor of love for them. They're not doing it as a business, so
That's cool.
They would definitely appreciate your donations.
That's really cool. And I know the Bitcoin community is really big on donating and helping out. So be sure to do that, guys.
I noticed also on there the OBPP, the Open Bitcoin Privacy Project, was also had a donor code on there as well. Can you do this for other charities and stuff like Free Ross, or if that was a possibility?
That would be something. I'm sure they have a recommended screen on the payment code section. I'm sure they'd love to add more charities there. But that would mean that more charities would need to get payment codes and contact the Samurai developers.
But these charities could, essentially just have one QR code on their site, and it would generate new, like you said, new addresses every time, and they would know who the money came from by.
Yeah, it would be it'd be a different model. Like a lot of charities, some of them may want the transparency of having all of their donations publicly visible.
Mm-hmm.
Other charities might not want that. They might, imagine go back a few years and when the WikiLeaks first broke in, when WikiLeaks and Bitcoin first collided, they might have gotten more donations back then if people could donate to WikiLeaks in a way that not everybody using a blockchain viewer could see.
That's a good point, because I mean, with already the sensitive nature of WikiLeaks.
I've actually heard people say that about the Free Ross thing, that they were afraid to donate to it because they didn't want to be associated with it.
I can understand, because I can see the government being like, "Oh, you're funding a terrorist organization, and we connected you through the blockchain. We're taking you to jail." Or
no, I'm not paying taxes.
Am I right?
In the current, especially in the U.S., in the current political climate, you never know when something you've done may be retroactively declared to be a thought crime.
Exactly. That's the perfect way to put it. Absolutely, and that's what's terrifying. And considering the political climate, I really want to believe in climate change that the government pushes. So you know what? I'm no longer a climate change denier. I'm all for it, because God, we could really use some political climate change.
You finally said something witty and funny.
Thanks.
But back to charities. If they're using payment codes, by default, no one would be able to see the donations other than the donors and the recipients. They would be free to publish lists of the transactions that were paid to them if they wanted to. But what the payment code does is it makes that part optional.
Right. So it's not that they don't have to battle to keep it secret if they want, but they can opt to reveal it if they want. Yeah.
Secret by default and transparent if they choose to make their information transparent.
Yeah. Secret by default, I think, is always better. I mean, for your private dealings. So that's really cool, and it's only possible because of payment codes developed by Justice Ranveer. So check that out. And one more time, where can people go to find out the code for the payment codes?
Oh, you mean if there were any like wallet developers that want to get started implementing it right now? It's BIP 47, so it's in the BIP repository.
Oh, I see. So it's just the next stage of that, the next standard in that library.
Yeah, it's the procedure for creating and using payment codes is documented in the Bitcoin Improvement Proposal repository.
Gotcha.
So if your favorite wallet doesn't have it in there, maybe you should contact Airbits or Mycelium or these other wallets and say, "Hey, what happened?"
Yeah, that's people who use Bitcoin wallets should ask their developers for the features they want.
Right.
Amen. Paul Poy and Rasa. What? Called y'all out. Well, we have a minute left till break. we didn't get to Gavin Wright. Would you mind hanging around one more segment so we can talk about that?
Sure.
Thanks. Because it really is.
Who's Gavin Wright?
I mean, not.
Gavin Andreessen and
that's what I was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. What is his name? Craig Wright. Craig Wright, not Gavin Andreessen.
No relation at all to Craig Christ.
Craig Christ. I was looking because there was a comment from Gavin Andreessen in this article in response to Craig Wright. It was pretty funny. We'll talk about that on the other side. But Craig Wright, is he British or Australian? He's Australian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Aussie. I can't do that. Who claims to be Satoshi and claims he has certain proofs. Well, it turns out the proofs are kind of dubious, and the really hardcore proofs he refuses to supply, it sounds like. And everyone's,
As of yet.
And everyone's kind of calling him out, and the channels he's going through are also a little dubious. But we'll be right back talking with Justice Ranveer about Craig Wright on the other side.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
For the longest time, for the longest, if you said that Bitcoin was my life, I would tell you, show enough, show you right.
Show enough. All right, welcome back, guys. Crypto Show, Logos Radio Network, Brave New Books, Hill Country Home Improvements, CryptoCompare.com. Bitcoin.com. Carl's Jr. Oh, yeah. Doritos. And Roger Ver's going to be on the next episode. He conveniently waits till I'm out of town.
We had a really great song to come back in with, but unfortunately, the guy has a potty mouth and we can't play it.
But you can check it out. It's David Lynch.
Stephen Lynch is Craig Christ.
Stephen Lynch is Craig Christ on YouTube. It's hilarious. All his stuff is hilarious. Yeah. My favorite is Little Tiny Mustache. You just go find it out for yourself.
Is that the Hitler one?
What? No, it's Charlie Chaplin.
Okay.
But we are, speaking of Hitler, we're talking to, no, I'm just kidding. We are, of course, though, talking with Justice Ranveer, our gracious guest in studio, longtime friend of the show who's been on here many times and has graced us not only with his presence,
but his dogs.
With his dogs and his incredible intelligence and knowledge concerning Bitcoin. And we always appreciate that. He also puts up with our ridiculous humor, which, well, a lot of people fortunately do. We always appreciate that. But speaking of ridiculous or not, I don't know. We're going to switch gears to talk about this Craig Wright guy.
Craig Christ.
The me and Judas grow. You can go to Bitcoin.com, and one of the featured articles in their news section is Proof of Satoshi, 8 Pressing Questions for Bitcoin Creator Craig Wright. And it's Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T. Now,
he can't even spell that right.
Am I right? That was good. Now, Craig Wright is a professor. And actually, I'm not even sure. Do you know much about him, Justice? He's a professor. Is he a professor of math, computer science? I probably should know this more myself.
He is he has some academic credentials, the exact amount of which is apparently disputed.
Really? And, not that, academic credentials are everything. Obviously, there are plenty of Bitcoin coders and other just coders and really smart people who didn't go through formal education, taught themselves, and they're brilliant at what they do. They've created some amazing stuff. But definitely, if he's throwing around certain credentials that may or may not be all they're cracked up to be, that's just one more crack in his image. One of which is that he claims he is Satoshi Nakamoto, the actual creator of Bitcoin.
You should note at this point that this story is the single most divisive and controversial thing going on in Bitcoin right now.
Why? In a way,
even more than the scaling block size limit issues.
Now, isn't that kind of sad?
We've already forgotten about that. Let's talk about.
That's boring. Let's talk about this. Is way more better gossip. But isn't that kind of sad? Like, I understand the block size debate and all that because there's a lot of financial and other interests at stake on both sides, and then also it's just a deep philosophical divide. So I can understand those issues, and I understand certain things like that get personal. But this, while of course everyone wants to know who the real Satoshi is.
Of course it's him. 6 months ago, they broke into his house and tried to steal his Bitcoins, but they didn't know what color they were.
He was brilliant. He was able to hide them from the feds. Well,
they were looking high and low, and they couldn't locate them. They're like, what do they look like? I don't know.
and they learned what they look like, and that's how they finally got Ross and got his Bitcoins. No, but I mean, and I almost want to give him credit, maybe not for being Satoshi, but just some credibility, because if the whatever the Australian feds or whoever it was went after him, usually the government persecutes people who are doing things like developing alternatives to fiat currencies, or not paying their extortion taxes. But
Libya, Iraq.
Yeah, or either on the individual scale or the country scale. But I don't know. He's claiming to be Satoshi Nakamoto, inventor of Bitcoin, writer of the 9-page Bitcoin white paper. And like you said, this is really controversial. And there seem to be people really big in Bitcoin who are totally dismissing him. But there's also people who are pretty big, at least in cryptography or Bitcoin, who are supporting him, right?
Yes. So when the story broke the morning, I guess, that the Consensus 2016 conference started, there was a coordinated series of blog posts, because some number of weeks ago.
See, if it wasn't for that, I would have never even known there was a consensus.
Well, maybe people are a little conferenced out by now.
Yeah, right.
But apparently a few weeks ago there was a demonstration where he got some reporters and Gavin Andresen and John Matonis in a hotel room. And he demonstrated to their satisfaction that he controlled some private keys that only Satoshi should control. So,
to their satisfaction, though, they're saying that,
right? They said that, and they both had apparently they had prepared blog posts that they wrote up, and they all published on the same morning. Well, what Wright's blog post though was very strange, and not what anyone was expecting, including the people who were participating in this announcement. He had a blog post which some people have labeled as a fraud and a lie, but it's not very clear what that blog post is, because it has at the top of it has a piece of text that looks like a big Bitcoin, looks like an ECDSA signature, but it is not actually an ECDSA signature. It never claims that is a signature, and most of the blog post is a tutorial for how to use OpenSSL to verify signatures on signed messages. And the tutorial itself has some problems. It's at best a synthetic example. Like what you might see is like fake examples in a math textbook.
So real quick, just for clarification, sorry. This SSL tutorial, this is a tutorial that Satoshi supposedly wrote that then is signed by Satoshi?
There are no signatures in the blog post.
So I don't even understand the point of the blog post then, I guess.
No one understands the point of the blog post. That's part of the controversy. So a lot of people have said
when your mouth is dry, you're too high.
So true.
Yeah, a lot of people have interpreted the OpenSSL tutorial in the blog post as if it were him attempting to prove that he's Satoshi, and it fails as that kind of a proof. So they're saying, well, this is a fraud.
Why? How would it even suffice as a proof? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, there are example signatures and messages in the tutorial, but they don't actually produce a valid signature. So on that basis, there are many people calling this a fraud, a hoax, and there are a lot of arguments as to why the demonstration that Gavin and John saw in person, there were definitely ways that it could have been faked by a determined attacker.
And Gavin Andresen is supposed to be one of the sort of premier experts in Bitcoin, right? I mean,
well, it depends on who you talk to.
Well, that's a good point.
There are a lot of people who have a lot of respect for Gavin, and there are a lot of people who the Bitcoin is incredibly polarized right now. There are people who have very strong opinions on Gavin in both directions. There are people who would like to see him removed from Bitcoin as efficiently as possible.
Now, when you say differing opinions on him, about his competency or about his intentions, or what do you mean?
All of the above.
All of the above. So even his competence is under attack, is in question.
There are people who have questioned that, yes. And there are other people who have the exact opposite view. Like I said, Bitcoin is extremely polarized right now.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is that adds or should say detracts from the credibility of that whole situation where he personally confirms it. Because honestly, even if his competency were considered top notch without question, I would still question it simply because he's a single person confirming it in this kind of private setting, right? And I don't care who you are, I would want more people confirming it than this one person, because you could always be, compromised or whatever, right? I mean,
well, it was also John Matonis who was there. and some reporters from various magazines. But I don't think anyone really considers them experts in this area.
Was the demonstration recorded at all?
It was not. And Gavin was not allowed to bring any evidence out of it that would be independently verifiable.
What does that tell you?
It's very suspicious.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we'll talk more on the other side of the break. Stay tuned.
Are you one of the millions of Americans affected by a chronic lung disease like emphysema or asthma? Your next round of therapy could involve musical toe-tapping fun. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back in a moment to tell you how.
Your search engine is watching you, recording all your searches and creating a massive database of your personal information. That's creepy, but it doesn't have to be that way. Startpage.com is the world's most private search engine. Startpage doesn't store your IP address, make a record of your searches, or use tracking cookies, and they're third-party certified. If you don't like Big Brother spying on you, start over with Startpage. Great search results and total privacy. Startpage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Medical devices are not usually known for being fun, but French musician Frédéric Yonnet has found a surprising alternative to his old asthma inhaler, a harmonica. After years of chronic asthma, Yonnet picked up the harmonica and found his breathing dramatically improved. Pulmonologists say the harmonica is like bodybuilding for the lungs, and patients across the country are using it to ease their breathing troubles. Pulmonologist Mei Li Han explains, to play a song, you have to be able to take a deep breath in and blow out against resistance, which can help strengthen the respiratory muscles. That helps patients relax their breathing and learn to control their airwaves. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
Chemtrails. You're listening to the Logos Radio Network at LogosRadioNetwork.com.
I've been walking a tightrope between fact and fiction. Been wrestling with demons in small bottle prisons. Been talking to sinners who claim to be Christian, but shouting at leaders who claim to be listening, and the pendulum swings from the left to the
Welcome back, guys. Deanie, stop licking my foot. What are you doing? Oh, it's Lima. Sorry, it's Justice's dog. I thought it was Danny. It felt like his tongue.
How do you know that?
So. What?
How do you know that?
I don't know what you're talking about. Moving on. We're talking with the second to last segment here at the Crypto Show. We're talking with Justice Ranveer, who has been gracious enough to stretch out with us for the whole episode and put up with this, of course. We're talking about Craig Wright, the Australian professor. Craig Wright. God, I love that song. I just love him.
Stephen Lynch.
Stephen Lynch. Thank you. I keep thinking David Lynch. But we're talking about his claim to be Satoshi Nakamoto. And as I was kind of saying, I think before the break interrupted us, there was a demonstration done by him, allegedly unequivocal proof, or at least to the satisfaction of those there, that he was Satoshi Nakamoto in a hotel room with Gavin Andresen and I always forget the other guy's name.
John Matonis.
John Matonis, as well as some reporters. Well, it turns out, among other things, there are questions about the motives, not to mention the competency of Gavin Andresen. So it's difficult to take their word for it. And then,
we're not saying that. I mean, we're saying that other people.
Well, it's other people. Certainly there are people who feel that way out there. I mean, and that's understandable.
Well, it almost sounds like you're saying that we're making that statement.
I'm not making that statement, but I mean, other people definitely have made that statement or said things to that effect. What is also interesting is that, as Justice mentioned, Gavin was not allowed to remove anything from the premises, basically, that would be independently verifiable proof of what had been demonstrated. Was that correct?
Yes.
So that's kind of weird.
It's a lot weird.
I'm going to say that. I'm saying that because that's weird.
Yeah.
Because,
well, you don't want to break the chain of custody.
Well, of course. Well, there you go. But, generally speaking, when you're okay, forget what you would do if you're trying to prove something.
It's called faith, man.
I feel it. Do you feel it? I feel the faith. I feel the faith in the Satoshi. No, but generally when you're trying to hide the fact that you're faking something, you do certain things that are just natural and logical. And to me, I'm sure to some people, some of these moves appear that way.
Absolutely.
So
it's very strange, and it gets stranger.
Tell us. Ooh.
So there are two other people also vouching for Craig Wright as Satoshi, and they are two very long-time, well-respected cypherpunks. That would be Ian Grigg and John. Yeah.
Was it something Vaughn? I can't remember now.
I only know his online handle of New Liberty, but the inventor of the New Liberty dollar. Now, Ian's post is he claims that Craig Wright was the leader of the Satoshi team, that there were multiple people in this team, and that Craig was he kind of described him as the driving force, described that the stresses on the team members have had effects on the members of the team. And his blog post was, it was written in the form of somebody who's writing for the history books, a little bit formal and...
So basically kind of like PR or like, I know what you're talking about.
Like somebody who believes they're saying something historic. So this is a very, very strange situation. The demonstration procedure was weird. The cryptographic proof that he holds keys that are likely to belong to Satoshi is very easy to share with the world so that it can be independently verified. That has not been done. That's weird. And in spite of that, we have two longtime old school cypherpunks vouching for him, whether he is or is not Satoshi, there's some very interesting things going on here.
Right. And, these guys do seem to have a fair bit of credibility. I will say, though, that, and I'm not saying this necessarily means anything, but the fact that JVP, or Twitter handle hack for good, HAQ, numeral 4 good, I'm not necessarily saying anything when I say this, but it goes from Craig Wright saying, I am Satoshi, to JVP backing him up as as the head of the team of Satoshi.
Well, it was Ian Grigg who wrote that.
Or Ian Grigg, I'm sorry. Well, but either way, it's a sort of story change, and again, not necessarily on purpose or suspicious, but at the same time, it's kind of like moving the goalposts a little bit.
Well, it's
for one, and then it's not entirely consistent with what Craig is saying, because Craig is basically just saying, no, it's just me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
Well, I don't know that it's correct that he's claimed to have been the only that he acted alone.
Well, fair enough.
I haven't seen him make that claim.
But he hasn't added any indication that other people helped him.
Why the BBC? Why not Bitcoin.com or Wired Magazine or or Hacker Daily or something like that?
I have no idea what any of the people involved in this are thinking. I mean, it's just pure random guessing. But if
it's just silly, he should have went with Mother's Milk Magazine or one of the big guys.
Ideally, the identity of the inventor of Bitcoin would be a matter of long-term historical significance. That's what we're hoping, right? We're hoping that Bitcoin does have some staying power. You could plausibly say that somebody who believes that might want to make their announcement to a wider audience than just the tech community or even the Bitcoin community. Well, but that's just a random guess.
They do have to roll this out every 6 months. Unfortunately, the last time they rolled it out, it was the same guy when they broke into his house and tried to steal all of his.
Well, and that's interesting timing too. I'm not implying anything by this, and I wouldn't know. But
I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but I know it's been several months since the last time, and then and then before that, it was the.
I mean, who knows if those are connected in some way? I don't know. That's for people to investigate.
Him. Where? In the phone book.
Well, and in your point that maybe he's trying to put it in history books, that's valid. But I still think he would go through cryptographic and Bitcoin specific parties who could then dispense it out to the wider media, if only for credibility's sake. And then, I would think that the wider media might be more prone to, give it more credibility and run with it if they do. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, all of the possibilities are strange. But if you think, okay, if it's a scam, then he would want to get people involved who would be less likely to detect the scam. Like a BBC reporter.
Right.
So you could look at it that way.
Good point.
Yeah, because even that guy says, I'm not sure what Bitcoin is, but he doesn't understand anything about Bitcoin.
If it's not a scam, think of all the potential risk that can be in play for somebody who's believed to own 1 million Bitcoins. I don't know. Would being worried about being taken out by a drone strike be out of the question? I don't know. Maybe.
No, that's a good point.
Maybe if you get, BBC and Economist reporters in there, you think that mitigates certain risks.
That's a good point. Fair enough.
But, right now, until we see some cryptographic proof on the blockchain or, signed messages, it's all speculation. There's not enough evidence to make any real conclusions.
Right. That's a very important point that we should keep in mind constantly. Although
hopefully he'll be paying his tax on $450 million.
Well, no, screw it. Don't pay the taxes. I mean, you didn't hear me say that, government. Well, we got a little over a minute left to the final segment.
The one thing that I think we can agree on is that if this story is false, then it's a very interesting question of why are the people who are backing him up. If the story is true, then it's a very interesting question as to why are there so many weird discrepancies and strange aspects to it.
Yeah.
Like, no matter which way it goes, something interesting is going on.
That's a good point. Even if this is real, there's more to this than meets the eye. Even if he's the real deal, there's something more than just saying, hey, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. Let me prove it. I created Bitcoin. That's a really good point. I think the minimum we can say is that, and that makes you wonder what is going on. Well, in the final segment, we'll discuss some of that, some of what people like Peter Todd and others have tweeted, and ask Justice his technical opinion on it, not technical opinion to see what these comments are about and other things. So stay tuned. We'll be right back to discuss more.
Easy.
Welcome back, guys, to the final segment of the Crypto Show here on this lovely May 4th, 2016, Wednesday, here on Logos Radio Network, brought to you as always by Brave New Books, Hill Country Home Improvements, and Crypto Compare at CryptoCompare.com for the Crypto Compare News Minute twice at the top of each hour, every Sunday episode.
Justice's dog has just admitted to being Satoshi Nakamoto.
And Lima, Justice Randver's dog, has just confessed to being Satoshi Nakamoto and has proven to me using
a secret handshake,
a literal digital signature, like a hand digital. Get it? Did you get it? That was good.
No, that's not good. That wasn't good at all.
That was good. Justice covered his face. That must have been good.
That's how good it was.
Yes. Thank you. Well, we're talking with Justice Randver, trying to unravel this whole thing. And what we really have concluded is, for now, we really can't unravel it. As Justice mentioned, either it's a scam, or it's the real deal, but something more than just revealing that it's the real deal is going on. So everything's kind of just strange about it. Well, and Justice, I wanted to ask you, this article on Bitcoin.com quotes some people on Twitter. Peter Todd, it quotes the creator of Litecoin, WikiLeaks, and some others about their response to this. And I want to ask you about Peter Todd's. Peter Todd said, FYI, signing any block after the Genesis block isn't good evidence you're Satoshi, as Bitcoin was released publicly without a pre-mine. Do you know what he's specifically, what he's referring to there, or what that means?
He's saying that the first block, the Genesis block, is the block that we are most certain belongs to Satoshi.
Okay.
There are other blocks that are very likely to have been mined by Satoshi. There's block 9, which the output of block 9 was used in the first ever Bitcoin transaction, which according to Hal Finney went to him and was sent by Satoshi. So we have Hal Finney's word that Satoshi owned block 9.
So does that necessarily mean that he owned blocks 2 through 8?
Well, no. The outputs they're independent of each other. Now, other people have done analysis by looking at some of the fields in the blocks that are related to the mining software and how it worked at the time, and there are some estimates about patterns in these fields that would indicate a single computer mining a group of blocks, and that's the basis for these estimates that Satoshi owns 1 million coins.
Okay, well, because it seems that a single computer did enough mining to have mined 1 million coins.
Right. You look for patterns that are incrementing that would indicate that one computer was running the software, and there are evidence. That's why people believe that Satoshi owns 1 million coins. But again, those estimates are not as certain as the fact that he must have mined the Genesis block.
Right. I mean, only because he created it.
Right.
I mean, and so in theory, 2 through 8 though could have been mined by somebody else who he shared the protocol with, and they started mining it, even though he mined block number 9 according to what's his name?
To Hal Finney.
To Hal Finney, thank you.
Yeah, we have Hal Finney's word that Satoshi controlled block 9.
Okay.
We have just the evidence of the protocol itself that Satoshi mined block 0.
So, sorry, go ahead.
And then all other blocks, block 0 is the one we're most certain about. I mean, it's almost axiomatic.
Right.
Block 9, I've not heard anyone seriously question whether or not we can believe Hal Finney about block 9. And every block beyond that is less certain.
Does Hal Finney know who Satoshi is?
Well,
or do we have any reason to believe that?
He might have, but we can't ask him because he's dead.
I knew that. When did he die?
I don't remember. A few years ago.
Oh, okay. What was the cause, out of curiosity?
I don't recall the name of the disorder, but...
oh, okay. But I guess natural causes, or, I mean...
I believe his head is cryogenically frozen, so...
Interesting. Well, 200 years from now, we'll hopefully find out.
We had another guy on the show that said that he made the second Bitcoin transaction, which was Dustin Trammell. This guy right here.
Okay.
Yeah. We should have him back on. I'm curious to get his thoughts on all this. Well, and so, but getting back to that, so I get what you're saying about Peter Todd's comment. So, but is Craig Wright then giving a digital signature for the non-zero block? I guess he's just giving one for an early block. Is that what it is?
In the in-person demonstration with Gavin and John Matonis, he apparently signed messages using the keys from block 1 and block 9, which block 1 is not when they look through the fields in the blocks and they're looking at the ones that were likely mined by Satoshi. Block 1 doesn't look like one of the ones that Satoshi mined.
Oh, so does it have those the markers or whatever?
Right, it doesn't have the incrementing extra nonce.
Interesting. So even though we might all things being equal assume Satoshi would likely have mined block 1, there's actually evidence to suggest that he didn't.
Well, it's not evidence that he didn't. It's that there's, I guess you would say that there's evidence that a different computer mined block 1 than some of the other early blocks below 10.
So either way, though, it's still reducing the certainty that we can have.
Yeah, block 1 is less certain than block 0 or block 9.
Right, but he apparently gave a digital signature for block 9.
Right.
So that, I guess, is what's taken if the signature is valid.
Right. No one outside the people who are in that room have seen the signature, which is that's the big crux of the problem.
Right.
Had that message and signature been published a few days ago, then we would all know by now whether or not it was valid. And we could use our own copies of the blockchain, and it would be very easy to verify. But that step wasn't done, and therefore there's this huge uncertainty. There's accusations that it is a scam and a fraud, and then here we are.
Well, and there was another comment too, something about a digital signature that was released 7 years ago that is already known. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'd have to find it again.
The tutorial portion of his blog post included a signature.
Oh, from that, I see.
But that signature was came out of the blockchain. It was a transaction that was mined years ago.
Wait, so sorry. So what does that mean? That we can't necessarily tie it to Satoshi?
No, it just means that the signature that was in the tutorial had nothing to do with any message that was in the tutorial. It was an old signature that has been mined in the blockchain years ago.
So it was just irrelevant, basically.
Completely irrelevant.
So why? So he just sort of randomly threw it in there?
Well, again, nobody knows what's up with that blog post, I guess, other than him. Well, presumably him. I mean, he could be mentally ill, crazy. But if anyone knows what's going on with that blog post, it's most likely to be him.
That is so weird. And has he made any claims about upcoming further revelations of evidence?
Yeah, he did. Yesterday, he published a blog post stating that he would move some early coins.
Oh, okay.
And this, unless it's happened in the last few hours, it has not occurred yet.
But again, he could move early coins that people may not even be confident were Satoshi's to begin with, right?
Correct.
He's just moving early coins that to the, I don't even want to say layman, but to a person who doesn't know a lot about the early history or the technical side of it, it just seems like, well, that must be Satoshi.
Yeah. Well, we know that the number of people mining back then was tiny.
Yeah, like a handful of people, literally, right?
But even if he were to spend the output of block 0, which technically isn't possible, that still wouldn't prove that he is Satoshi. It would prove that he holds the private key. But the fact that he holds a private key now doesn't mean he's the same person who held it, 7 years ago.
Right, because maybe Satoshi sold it to him, or he or something happened.
There are many.
Who knows?
There are
right.
many ways to explain how he could hold a key now that he didn't hold 7 years.
Well, that's one of those epistemological things where it's like none of this is really definitive proof, barring something.
Next week when he's on the news and doing another interview
while he's running from the police or whatever,
there will never be. It's not possible to truly produce 100% proof that anyone is Satoshi.
Right.
There will always be possible scenarios that it could be a fake.
Right.
But if he produces a signature from one of these blocks that were likely to be Satoshi mined, and given the the people vouching for him, and if any other circumstantial evidence he can bring to bolster the cryptographic evidence, it's it's just going to move the needle to conceivably, if it really is true that he's Satoshi, he could make it so that we could say, it's more likely than not that he's telling the truth.
Right.
And maybe he could come up with some evidence that would make it extremely likely. But no matter who Satoshi is, there will never be 100% proof.
Right, and that's ultimately a really important thing to keep in mind. We have a minute and 15 seconds left. Real quick, too, the two individuals you had named who are supporting him, the cryptographer JVEP and the other guy.
And Ian Grigg.
Ian Grigg, thank you. Why are they supporting him? Why have they been convinced?
They've basically claimed to have known all along who Satoshi was.
Oh, wow, okay. And how did Craig Wright even get into any of this to begin with?
He was apparently at least going to the conferences where the cypherpunks hung out way back in the early
day.
2000s.
So he was kind of mixed up in all this in some way or another. All right, well, Justice Rainbow, 35 seconds left. Any final thoughts for us?
Whatever happens, it's an interesting story. We don't know how it's going to turn out.
True. You know what my guess is? Aliens. But that's my guess. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's funny.
Aliens.
Just like the meme. Just like that. Whatever that guy's name
Legal
is.
or illegal?
Am I right? All right. Well, Justice Rainbow, thank you so much for being on the show. And I guess we'll see you guys next time. Always a pleasure, man. All right. Later.